The warning of the Crimson Gods. The temple chamber was dim, the sacred flame flickering weakly as High Priest Arthox stumbled into the congregation. His 4 eyes were wide, his scaled hands trembling as he clutched the ceremonial staff. His voice, usually a calm balm of authority, cracked with urgency. "They came to me," he rasped, barely louder than a whisper. "In my dream, the gods came to me." The gathered council murmured, confused. Arthox was not one for theatrics, yet now he seemed possessed. His tail thrashed against the stone floor. "They spoke of them," he shouted, his voice echoing. "The ones we mock as primitive. The humans." The murmurs turned to jeers. "Humans?" scoffed Councillor Vikesh. "Their ships are feeble, their bodies fragile. What could they—" "Silence!" Arthox's staff struck the floor, the sound reverberating like thunder. "Do you dare doubt the words of the gods?" The crowd fell silent, their arrogance momentarily tempered by fear. Arthox's voice lowered, trembling. "They warned me of the Crimson Gods," he said, his voice breaking. "They do not sing of love or prosperity. They do not guide their people gently. These gods demand blood, sacrifice, war." He stepped forward, his eyes scanning the assembly. "There is a god of the sun," they said, "who burns his enemies to cinders while demanding rivers of blood in tribute. A god of war who dances upon fields of carnage, laughing as the weak perish. And another, an unnameable force, who drags the souls of the defiant into eternal torment." Arthox's voice dropped to a whisper. "They said these gods are not relics of the past. They linger. Their fury dwells in the humans' hearts, waiting to be called upon." Councillor Vikesh sneered. "Old myths, no different from the warnings of our own gods to keep us obedient." Arthox's staff struck the ground again, splintering the wood. "No!" he shouted, desperation pouring from him. "Our gods fear them. They begged us to avoid confrontation. If we strike the humans, it will not be their armies that retaliate. It will be their gods, awakened and vengeful." The congregation grew uneasy. They had seen their priest frantic before, but never like this. "And what would you have us do, Arthox?" another councillor asked, their voice trembling. "Bow to these creatures?" Arthox slumped, his strength draining. "I do not ask you to bow," he said softly. "I ask you to live." But the arrogance of his people was deeply rooted. Even as he spoke, the assembly dismissed his words as fear-born nonsense. They would prepare their fleets, assured of their dominance. Arthox left the chamber in silence, his heart heavy. He could still see the images burned into his mind, the blazing sun, the fields of endless war, the shadow of the unnameable force. He had delivered the warning. Now the Crimson Gods would decide their fate.